Hey guys, welcome back to Ultimate S&S. Hope everyone's having a great day. So today we're going to be discussing this article right here. So if you're getting your power from the Glen Canyon Reservoir, guys, you need to be aware that we're already looking at about a 13% reduction in power. They're talking by next year it probably won't be able to produce any at all because of the water levels that have been dropping out west. So what you need to do is you need to figure out what you're going to do as far as electricity. There's a lot of different options out there. You can be looking at wind turbines in your yards. You can look at solar generations. You can look at your typical generators running off of fossil fuels and stuff like that as well. But you need to figure something out because it sounds like you're fixing to have some major issues over there. On top of those issues, some other stuff that we're seeing over out west, guys. If you look over at Kansas right now, that's one of our largest wheat productions in this country, and we're seeing a lot of headlines that are looking a lot like this. It's getting bad. So a lot of people need to realize a few things. So there seems to be this misconception that food just kind of appears out of nowhere. Well, a lot of the food that we grow in our country gets sent over to other countries, and then we end up buying food from other countries and bring it over here. Not sure why we don't just grow our own anymore, but that is the way that it is. But with the wheat production down, we're going to start noticing with not just the foods that we eat with breads, but you're going to look at foods that have a lot of your dog foods that have grains in those. You're going to be looking at any kind of a feed situation for your cattle and things like that. For those who like to buy that type of a hay and stuff and actually give over to your animals, yeah, it's just not going to be as readily available, and the stuff that you can find is going to be through the roof in the pricing. So that's something you need to be aware of. What is it that could be causing a lot of these issues that we're seeing? Well, they talk about climate change and they talk about wanting to get these electric vehicles on the road. I don't know if you've looked at the price of some of these vehicles though. They are through the roof. They are expensive. If you look around the area like where I live at, you don't have any place to charge these things at except for your house. You can charge them at your house. You put those power stations in where you can charge. On top of the drought conditions, we're going to start seeing a lot of these wildfires start back up, which is not a good thing though, because one, it burns out a lot of our forests, it burns out of a lot of our natural resources. But not just that, when it does start to get into those rainy seasons, then you start getting a lot of mudslides and issues arise from blocking the roads. I believe it's the West Coast over on one. It was the scenic route. They've actually lost sections of that road from rock slides and mudslides, and they haven't got them open back up because it's not really feasible to continue to open that road up from what they're saying because it just continues to get worse. And they're actually blaming a lot of those issues on the wildfires that have happened in the past. So if you're in these affected areas that are looking at these power shortages, something you need to realize is you can't just go buy some solar systems or whatever it is that you're looking at. They have all kinds of different types of wind turbines. They have the vertical setups, they have the horizontals and stuff like that. But you can't just go buy it and put it in your own yard. In most states, you are required to actually file for a permit for these things, especially if it's going to be large enough to run your appliances in your home. So you need to look and see what your state's laws are, what the requirements are for you to have that type of equipment set up on your site. Now, there are some companies that are out there that are offering to set up solar farms on your property, but you need to be aware that most of those are just going to be hooked directly to the grid so that they can sell power to the power company. It's not actually to help you at all, but you can, for a price, they will set up your battery banks and stuff like that as well. Or maybe it's something that you can have set up where you put your own battery banks in. That way you can flip a switch and you're ready to go on that. But there again, you have to get permitting. There is a special insurance that you have to carry for that as well, at least here in the state of Florida. So you need to be checking and making sure what options you have, but you need to also make sure that you're following your legal guidelines as well, because if you end up starting a fire because you've got this stuff hooked up wrong or something, they're going to come in and determine where it was. That's going to make it harder on the rest of the people that are trying to make sure that they're set up with solar grids or these backup batteries and stuff. Now you can own those portable solar generators that they have where you hook a solar panel to it, set it out in the yard, and it charges those up, and they come in all types of different sizes. But the problem with those is they're kind of limited on what they can run. Most of the stuff you're going to be looking at is about 110 on the voltage, maybe around 15 amps if you're lucky. But you could take a design of that and you could build something yourself and probably come out pretty good. But when you get these questions about how much solar does it take to run a house, well, that's going to depend on a few things. Is all of your appliances, are they all energy efficient? If so, it's not going to take as much, but it's still going to take a lot. And are you planning on having a refrigerator and freezer running off of it? If you are, and then if you're going to be using a washer and a dryer, then you're going to have to figure the peak for that as well. And then everyone's going to have their lights on, their fans on, and all this stuff. But what you need to realize is even when you go to, say, a gas power generator or a diesel generator, there's a lot of times, unless you buy one of those really large at-home units, a lot of times there's going to be sacrifices that have to be made. Most people down here buy a generator to run, say, their refrigerators and one air condition, and those generators are pretty pricey. Now if you're looking at something that's going to run everything in your house, just flip of a switch at home standby, yeah, I mean, you're looking probably upward around 10 grand to have something like that set up. And then are you going to hook it to natural gas? Are you going to have it propane fed? Are you going to have it diesel? Are you going to have it gasoline? There's a lot of options that you can do. But one of the things you need to look at is the availability of the fuel source that you're looking at and the pricing of it as well. Because usually when a storm hits, I know like it did out here in Florida, there was no local gas stations open for at least 2 weeks. So if you're not carrying at least a few weeks of fuel on hand, those generators aren't going to do you much good. So you need to really think about what your options are going to be at that time, folks. But again, not to scare people, just some articles I thought was interesting. And I know some of our viewers do live out that way, so I don't know if you've seen that bit of news yet. But it's time to start making some plans of what you're going to do if they start cutting back your power between now and next year. And if it really gets as bad as they're predicting and you have no power generation off of that hydro setup, then you definitely are going to need to figure something out, whether it's moving or figuring out some secondary energy sources. But I hope everyone's having a great day. We're going to get off here.